So, there was this girl named Nia, living in a small town, see? Now, Nia, she wasn't like the other kids. She had this big, dark scar running from her forehead down to her cheek, which she always covered up with an eye patch. She got it as a little kid, from some accident nobody ever talked about. Her dad, a real strong fellow with grease always under his fingernails, he'd tell her, "Nia, it ain't about what's on the outside. True beauty, that's in your heart." He worked his tail off as a mechanic, fixing up clunkers so Nia could go to school. But at school, nobody gave a darn about what was inside. Kids would laugh at her, point right at her face, whisper behind her back, like she couldn't hear him. "Look at her face," one girl would giggle. "She looks like a busted-up flower pot," some boy would say. But the worst of the bunch was this kid Caleb. Golden boy of the school, you know? Rich, popular, always had a crowd hanging around him. His old man owned the biggest grocery store in town. He had the best clothes, the best shoes, the best of everything. Loudest guy in the room, and the meanest when it came to Nia. Every day, Caleb would find some way to make fun of her. Called her Dirty Nia. "Why do you even bother coming to school?" Caleb sneered one morning, leaning against the classroom door like he owned the place. "You look like something out of a horror movie." Then he'd say things like, "Did your dad try to fix your face the way he fixes those beat-up cars?" And his buddies would just crack up. Nia, she wouldn't say nothing. She'd try to just ignore them, tell herself she didn't care. But deep down, man, she felt this heavy weight in her chest, like a rock pressing down on her heart. She'd walk right past them, feeling their eyes on her, that scar burning under their stares. But inside, she was crumbling. One day it was lunchtime. Sun was shining bright. You could smell the jollof rice and beans all over the place, and the cafeteria was packed with kids yapping. Nia was holding her tray tight, stomach growling like crazy. She'd been saving up her lunch money all week so she could get a special meal today, fried rice and chicken. But as she walked into the cafeteria, she didn't see the sneakers. She didn't notice the way Caleb and his buddies were watching her, like they were planning something. She didn't have a clue what they'd done. Nia got to her usual spot, put her tray down on the table, didn't see the water on the chair, sat right down. Then splash. That cold hit her right away. Soaked right through her skirt, stuck to her skin. The whole cafeteria went quiet for a second. Then, oh no, Caleb's voice just boomed through the hall, like someone banging on a drum. Big Nia peed herself. And then, laughter. Loud, cruel, just plain mean laughter. Nia's fingers dug into the table hard. Could feel her face burning, heart pounding in her chest. The laughter crashed over her like a wave. Some girl pointed and yelled, "Look! Look at her skirt. She wet herself like a baby." One boy even slapped his knee and said, maybe she saw her own face in the mirror and got scared. Even the kids who didn't want to laugh were smiling behind their hands. Nia swallowed hard, trying to keep it together. She wanted to run away, disappear. But she didn't move. Slowly, she stood up. The room went quiet again, everybody watching her like a pack of hungry wolves. She turned to Caleb, looked him right in the eye. Her voice was steady, like she was talking about the weather. "I may be wet, but how's that? Let me know what you think, and if there's anything you want me to adjust. Ready for the next part whenever you are. Least I'm not drowning in my own ego, like you are." The cafeteria just went stone-cold quiet. Laughter stopped dead. A couple kids whispered to each other. A few even nodded like they agreed with her. Caleb's smile just vanished, face all twisted up with anger. Nia grabbed her tray, turned around, and walked right out of there, back straight as an arrow. She wasn't going to let him see how much it hurt. But inside, she was breaking, no doubt about it. And Caleb? He didn't like that she talked back to him. Not one bit. He wanted to break her, completely and for good. The next week, things got even worse. It had been raining all morning, real hard. The sky was all gray and gloomy, and the ground was soggy and wet. Big puddles of brown, thick mud were sitting in the schoolyard, just waiting for some poor sap to step in them. Nia was holding her books tight to her chest as she walked. Air was chilly, but inside she was burning up. Burning from all the laughter, the whispers, the stares. Caleb wasn't done with her. Nope, not by a long shot. He wanted more. He wanted her to snap. Nia turned the corner, and there they were, Caleb and his whole crew. "Where you headed, Big Nia?" Caleb smirked, like he already knew what was going to happen. His buddies chuckled along with him. Nia didn't say a word. She knew better than to give him anything. She turned around to walk the other way, but they blocked her path. She looked down at the ground. Right behind her was a big puddle of thick, sticky mud. Dark as night, deep as shame. Caleb grinned real wide. He gave her a shove, and Nia went down, hard. Face first, right into that mud. Laughter just exploded all around her. Caleb clapped his hands together. "Now your ugly face matches the ground," he yelled. His friends just howled, their voices echoing through the schoolyard like crows cawing over something dead. Nia slowly sat up. Mud was dripping from her hair, from her clothes, from her face. Her heart was pounding in her chest. She was breathing fast, trying not to lose it. Tears were burning behind her eyes, but no way she was going to cry. Not for them. She wiped her face off as best she could, stood up, and just walked away. She didn't run, didn't try to shake off the mud, didn't even look back. But inside, something broke. Something small, but important. That evening, when the sun was starting to go down, Nia was sitting behind the school building. She didn't want to go home looking like that. She pulled her knees up to her chest, buried her face in them, and just let the tears flow. Then she heard soft footsteps coming closer. A gentle voice spoke up. "Why are you crying, child?" Nia sniffed, wiped her nose, and looked up. It was Mrs. Lila, the school cleaner. She was old, with silver hair all wrapped up in a scarf. Her hands were rough from years of scrubbing floors. But her eyes, they were warm and kind. Nia hesitated for a second. Then she whispered, "It's Caleb. He won't stop bullying me. He says my scar makes me ugly." Mrs. Lila put down her mop, reached into her bag, and pulled out a small jar. She handed it to Nia. Nia frowned. "What's this?" "An ointment," Mrs. Lila whispered back. Nia traced the lid with her fingers. "Will it make my scar go away?" Mrs. Lila smiled, but there was something strange in her eyes. "Rub this on your scar every night," she said softly. Then she leaned in closer, her voice like the wind picking up before a storm. "And when someone insults you again, just say thank you. They will face the consequences." Nia frowned, confused. What? What kind of crazy advice was that? Say thank you? How is that going to stop Caleb? She wanted to ask, but Mrs. Lila was already heading off with her mop. Nia looked down at the jar in her hands. It smelled like herbs, but kind of weird. Something strange about it. But she was just plain tired. Tired of being the one everyone laughed at. Tired of the pain. Tired of having this scar that made her stand out like a sore thumb. So she just nodded. Figured she'd give it a try. Maybe, just maybe, it'd help somehow. She slipped the jar into her pocket and walked on home, her heart heavy with questions bouncing around in her head. That night, Nia sat on her little wooden bed, staring at that jar in her hands. The room was dark, except for a little bit of moonlight shining through the window. She unscrewed the lid. Sniff. The smell was strong, like crushed up leaves and something kind of bitter. It tickled her nose, made her eyes water a little bit. Nia hesitated. Was this stuff even real? Was it really going to change anything? But she figured she didn't have anything to lose at this point. Slowly, she dipped her finger into the ointment and rubbed it on her scar. The coolness spread across her skin. It tingled, like a bunch of tiny ants running all over her face. She sighed, put the jar under her pillow, and laid down. Tomorrow was going to be another battle, same as always. The next morning, Nia walked into school. She could already hear the whispers starting up. She knew the second Caleb saw her, he'd start in with his garbage. And sure enough, there he was, leaning against the classroom door, arms crossed, that nasty smile plastered across his face. His buddies were standing behind him, waiting for the show to start, grinning like idiots. "Hey, Big Nia, did your face finally melt off?" he sneered. "That scar makes you look like some kind of witch or something." The laughter was all ready to go. The insults were loaded up, ready to fire. But Nia, she didn't frown. She didn't look down at the ground. She smiled, instead. Then she looked Caleb right in the eye and said, "Thank you." Silence. His grin just wavered for a second. "What?" Nia just shrugged. "I said, thank you." Then she turned and walked right past him, calm as could be, like nothing had even happened. The laughter didn't come. The whispers didn't follow her. Caleb just stood there, watching her, his face all puzzled. Something about the way she said it. Something about how calm she was. It just didn't sit right with him. His fingers twitched a little. His chest felt tight. But he just shook it off. Figured he'd deal with her later. School let out that day, and everyone went home. But the next morning, something weird happened. That morning, when school started, Caleb's seat was empty. At first, nobody really noticed. Maybe he'd slept in. Maybe he was just running late. But by the time break rolled around, his friends started whispering to each other. Where's Caleb? Maybe he's sick or something. He never misses school, though. The teachers noticed it, too. Caleb was always there, loud and obnoxious, causing trouble. But today, he was nowhere to be seen. By the second day, students started asking questions out loud. Has anyone seen Caleb? Is he on vacation or something? Did something happen to him? The teachers sent a note home to his parents, but they didn't get any response. By the third day, the principal was getting worried. He called a meeting and sent one of the staff members to check on Caleb at his house. When they got to his place, what they found just shocked everyone. Caleb was stuck in bed, couldn't even get up. His body was just plain weak. He completely lost his voice. He was terribly sick, that's for sure. Caleb's parents were scared out of their minds. Their strong, loudmouth son was now as weak as a leaf blowing in the wind. He couldn't even stand up, couldn't eat anything, couldn't even talk. His face, which used to be so bright and full of himself, was all swollen up. His lips were dry and cracked, like old firewood. His mother was crying her eyes out. His father just paced back and forth in the room, like a caged animal. This ain't normal, his mother wailed. We gotta find a cure, somehow. So they took Caleb to the best doctor in town. The doctor checked him over, looked in his eyes, poked his stomach, listened to his heart. He gave him all sorts of medicine, shots, even some fancy vitamins. But nothing changed. This is beyond my abilities, the doctor finally said, rubbing his head like he was the one who was sick. Next up, they took Caleb to the biggest church in the city. The pastor laid his hands on Caleb's forehead and shouted, "Be healed in the name of Jesus." But nothing happened. The pastor clapped his hands together, shouted even louder, poured anointing oil all over Caleb's head. Still, Caleb just lay there, his face all twisted up in pain. The pastor sighed. This is beyond my understanding. The family didn't give up. They went to see a famous Islamic cleric. He read holy verses over Caleb's body, tied little charms around his wrists. Then he told Caleb's parents to give to the poor, said it would bring healing. So they did what he said. They gave away money, food, clothes. They fed hungry kids. They helped out widows. But Caleb stayed sick as a dog. Nothing seemed to work. Days went by, and Caleb just kept getting worse. Finally, someone told them about some powerful herbalist way out in the countryside. They drove for hours, carrying Caleb in the car, his body burning up with fever. This herbalist was an old fella, with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see right through you. He mixed up all sorts of bitter herbs, brewed up some black potions, and even bathed Caleb under the cold moonlight. But nothing made a difference. The herbalist just sighed and said, "This is beyond my knowledge." All those folks had taken their money, but none of them could cure their son. The parents had spent every last penny they had. The doctors had failed. The pastors had failed. The clerics had failed. Even the herbs had failed. With no hope left, Caleb's parents went back home. His mother cried day and night. His father just sat there in silence, staring off into space. Then one day, Caleb's mother went to the market. The sun was hanging low in the sky, and the air was thick and heavy, like something bad was about to happen. Caleb's mother hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were all red and puffy. Her body was just plain worn out. But she couldn't rest, not when her son was lying in bed, his face swollen up, his body weak, and his voice gone. She tried everything she could think of: medicine, prayers, herbs, you name it. Nothing had worked. Maybe the herbalists at the market have something stronger, she thought to herself. So she grabbed her basket and hurried off to the market. The market was packed, like always. Sellers were shouting out their prices, kids were running around all over the place, and goats were munching on leaves. But Caleb's mother didn't even notice any of it. She stopped at a stall that was selling dried roots and bitter leaves. She picked out a few things, paid the woman behind the counter, and turned to leave. That's when she saw her. An old woman, real thin and wrinkled, wearing clothes that were all torn up. She was sitting on the ground, her hands stretched out, begging. Her voice was real soft, almost like it was getting swallowed up by all the other noise. Please, just a little bit of food. Something tugged at Caleb's mother's heartstrings. She reached into her purse, pulled out some money, and put it in the woman's hand. The old woman grabbed her wrist, real tight. Her hand was cold, and she was stronger than she looked. Caleb's mother gasped. "What are you doing?" The old woman's eyes, dark, deep, like they knew all her secrets, just stared right through her. Then she whispered, "Your son's illness ain't natural, that's for sure." A shiver ran down Caleb's mother's spine. What do you mean by that?" The woman's grip didn't loosen up. The old woman's eyes were sharp, like she knew everything. He's offended a girl with some real power. Unless she forgives him, he ain't never gonna get better. Caleb's mother's heart skipped a beat. Who? She breathed out. Who did he offend? The old woman just shook her head. That's for you to figure out. And just like that, she let go of her wrist. Caleb's mother stepped back, feeling all shaky. She wanted to ask her more questions. But when she blinked, the woman was gone. She ran all the way home and told Caleb's father everything that had happened. He just stood there for a long time, not saying a word. Their son had bullied a lot of kids, way too many to count. But which one was the one? Caleb's parents started racking their brains, trying to remember. Who had he wronged so bad that even the strongest medicine couldn't cure him? They thought and thought, trying to figure it out. He's bullied so many kids, Caleb's mother whispered. How are we supposed to know which one it is? They needed to find some answers, and fast. So Caleb's father went straight to the school. He stormed right into the principal's office, his face all crumpled up with worry. Please, sir, he begged. My son's really sick. We were told that he's offended someone, and unless that person forgives him, he ain't gonna get better. Do you have any idea who it could be? The principal sighed real deep. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes like he was tired of all this. Caleb has bullied a lot of students, that's true, he said. But there's one in particular, one he's been tormenting for years now. Caleb's father leaned forward in his chair. Who is it? The principal's face was real serious. Nia, the girl with the scar on her face. Caleb's parents just froze in their tracks. Nia, his mother whispered, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Yes, the principal said. He's made her life a living hell. There's probably more to it now than meets the eye. Caleb's parents didn't waste any time. The road to Nia's house was all bumpy and rough, but Caleb's parents didn't even notice the potholes. Their hearts were pounding too hard. Fear was sitting in their chest like a heavy rock. Their son was lying in bed, weak, swollen, and helpless. And now they finally had their answer. Nia, the girl with the scar, the girl their son had tormented, the girl whose pain had followed him home. They rushed into Nia's yard. Nia's father was in his workshop, a wrench in one hand, grease all over his shirt. He was working on a car, the hood propped wide open. He looked up, surprised to see them. Caleb's parents were all breathless and desperate looking. He wiped his face with a dirty rag and looked up at them, kinda confused. What brings you here? Caleb's mother just fell to her knees right there. Please, sir, she begged. Our son is really sick. He can't walk, he can't talk, can't do anything. We were told he offended someone and needs to be forgiven. The principal said it's your daughter. Her voice was all shaky, and her hands were trembling. She'd never begged for anything in her life. But today, she was down on her knees in front of a mechanic, tears streaming down her face. Nia's father wiped his hands clean on a cloth. His face was calm, but his eyes were full of sadness. He turned to look at his daughter. My child, will you forgive him? Nia was standing in the doorway, arms crossed tight, shoulders all stiff. Her heart was being pulled in two different directions. This was the boy who had called her a monster. This was the boy who had laughed at her pain. This was the boy who had shoved her face first into the mud. And now, here he was, stuck in bed, completely helpless. Nia took a deep breath, trying to keep herself together. I didn't do anything to him, she said. I don't even know what you're talking about. Her father sighed, real heavy. He walked over to her slowly, put his hands on her shoulders, and looked her right in the eyes. Nia, my child, nobody deserves to suffer like that, not even your worst enemy. His voice was soft, like the wind whispering right before it starts to rain. Please, just forgive him. Nia looked at her father, the man who'd taught her to be kind, even when the world was being cruel. She looked at Caleb's parents, people who used to think their son could get away with anything. Now, they were on their knees, begging. She let out a long, slow breath. Then, finally, she spoke. I'll forgive him, but only if he agrees to one thing. Caleb's father grabbed both of her hands. Anything, just name it. Nia's voice didn't even shake a little bit. Caleb has to leave the school, and he can never bully anyone again. Ever. His parents nodded their heads real quick. We agree. He'll leave. He's out of there. Caleb's mother reached out to take Nia's hand. We'll also pay for your school, right up until you finish college. Nia hesitated for a second. Then, she nodded her head. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered the words, I forgive you, Caleb. That night, Caleb was lying in his bed, weak and helpless as could be. His parents were watching over him, praying to whatever God would listen. just hoping and waiting for a miracle. The house was dead silent, and the air felt thick, like something was about to happen. Then, as soon as the first bit of light hit the sky, Caleb opened his eyes. His mother gasped when she saw him. Caleb, his father rushed over to his side. Son, say something, anything. Caleb licked his lips, which were all dry and cracked. He swallowed hard. Then he whispered, Mama. His mother just burst into tears. His father grabbed his hand and squeezed it tight. You're healed. His voice was filled with relief. His voice had come back. His strength started coming back, little by little. He could sit up in bed. He could move his arms and legs. By the second day, he was able to walk around a little bit. By the third day, he was eating solid food again. And by the fourth day, it was like he'd never even been sick in the first place. His parents didn't waste any time. They pulled him out of school right away. You're never going back there, his father said. And you're never going to hurt another person again, do you hear me? Caleb didn't even argue. He'd changed, no doubt about it. He'd finally felt what it was like to suffer, and he didn't want anyone else to go through that. He never bullied anyone again, not even once. Back at school, things were different now. People still whispered, but they weren't whispering about Nia's scar. They were whispering about her. They watched her out of the corner of their eyes, but their faces were showing something new: respect. Nobody laughed at her anymore. Nobody pointed fingers. Nia wasn't just some girl with a scar on her face. She was a girl with power, that's what she was. And not just at school, but all over town. She'd started out as the girl everyone made fun of, but now, she was the girl nobody dared to mess with. So, that's the story. Hope you got something out of it. If you did, give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment letting me know what you learned from this tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this one. Thanks for watching.